I wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
Making It Last podcast. Name is Noreen Daly. Welcome. It's time for another conversation. And this time around, it's one of the passions, I would say, of my life that we're going to find a way now to just include it. The topic this time is how has debating helped to improve your relationships? Because as you know, this podcast is all about helping us to improve our relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. Now I have three gentlemen who are seasoned debaters, current members of the NCU debate team, who will share their experiences with us. We have Zanieki, Jarrett, Jovaney, Ashman, and Onyeka, Nevins. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves, gentlemen, specifically in regards to debating.
Thank you very much, Daly. And hi, guys who are listening. You're an avid listener, of course. Nevins here. I am a Northern Caribbean University debater. I have a very good team that I debate with. They're very exciting. I learn a lot from them. I like debating, not because it is... Personally, I think debating is quarrel. It's not quarrel. It allows you to solve problems. So it's a problem-solving mechanism, which I enjoy, because we need a lot of problems to be solved in this current society for Jamaica.
Oh, yes.
I'm Jovaney Ashman. I'm a final year student. I've been a part of the NCU debating team since my first semester, first year. So I have passed through and seen a lot of people pass through the team, older folks, people join. So like now I'm like an older folk now, you know, in terms of like debating years. This is my final semester and this is what I live for. This is one of the few times that I'm always excited is to go to debate training. So I participate in a lot of competitions around numerous topics. I have different team members. So yeah.
So based on how Ashman is talking, he's granddaddy debater then, right?
we could give him that title.
And we say here to that one. Here. You know, as Nevin said, you know, Jovaney Ashman is a real seasoned granddaddy debater in our presence here. No, I will take the crown that Miss Daly has placed upon my head and I will wear it humbly. No, I do not know that I am a seasoned debater, listeners. But I know that I do feel like I belong on the team at NCU. I recently transferred to the Department of Communication Studies, and I am learning a lot, not just in that department, but you know, as a debater. I appreciate the sense of, you know, camaraderie that it affords. I know that above all else, as a debater, you must be a thinker.
Okay.
And I think that's what I take from, you know, debating, knowing how to be a thinker.
All right. So now, I don't know if it is that you're going to utilize what you just mentioned in terms of being a thinker, but identify, if you can, a technique or so that you've utilized while debating that you think has actually improved your relationships.
One technique that I have definitely adapted from debating is knowing how to appreciate both sides of an argument.
Okay.
And not just necessarily an argument. Well, Nevin said that, you know, an argument is not a quarrel.
Right.
You know, it's a you know, it's a structured thing where you consider both points from different views and you assess, you know, which one has weight and you intelligibly, you know, dissect and construct, you know, an argument or a point of view or a stance, and you weigh them so that you see which of them actually is solid and which one doesn't necessarily measure up but can be, you know, flexible. Okay. One of the things we've learned in debate is to, you know, appreciate every argument. Everyone has value, but you need to evaluate and see which one of them is the most intelligible argument.
Okay. Jovaney?
I really have to go on his point, because the point is really so true. Now more than ever, we need people who are able to listen to both sides of the spectrum. Now we're finding out that everyone is becoming polarized. So you're either left or you're right. You're conservative or you're liberal. You're religious or you're atheistic. And so we live in a society now that forces us into the schisms where we must take a particular side. And not only does it forces us to take these sides, but it forces us into a level of ignorance. So it's like, oh, I'm a liberal, so it means that all conservatives are bad, or I'm a religious person, which means that everybody else, debating tells you that, listen, there are going to be lots of other people out there with lots of different views, but you need to be able to understand where is it that they're coming from and how is it that you can form some form of understanding. No one is telling you to throw away your values, It probably could be something that conflicts with your beliefs. But the idea is that you are engaging in an intellectual discussion and you're respectful to understand that there are people out there with varying beliefs and that you must take this into consideration instead of forcing these individuals into isolation, or as we often do, give them labels. And not only do we give them labels, but then we often ostracize these individuals for their unorthodox ideas. Debate tells you that you're going to be on different sides of the spectrum and you have to take this into consideration.
So coming after Ashman now, who is marinated in the debating aspect of things, unlike myself, I'm very excited to comment on this question. And I'm going to do somewhat slow down the adrenaline to get the thoughts flowing carefully, because there's something I want to get to in this crescendo explanation. Firstly, relationship requires listening. Debating causes you to be a good listener. These guys talk about both sides of the stories. You only can hear both sides if you're listening.
That's right.
Your ears can't shut and you can hear both sides.
That's right.
You understand? Good listener and a critical listener also. So you just don't listen superficially. You can listen even what has not been said and hear that. You see what I'm saying? All right, but this is also another thing. Debating is actually communicating or communication, And a relationship resides and depends on communication. So it teaches you communication skills also. All right, we're getting there now. So we're to crescendo. The other thing now is this. Debating is about putting forward reasoned arguments towards solving a problem. Which relationship don't have a problem? Put up your hand. Which means that I have taken from debating the ability to know that a relationship may be a problem. I may have a problem in my relationship, but I can, with that individual, sit down and come up with reasoned arguments towards coming to a solution. We're not throwing a spike keel and a pat and pan across the room and people are duck after bullets and machete is a big thing nowadays.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? Because it's not quarrel, it's reasoned argument. Watch the crescendo now. I have learned the psychology in debating, which is this. Different personality types and temperament bring something different to debating. So the introverted, intuitive thinker, who is a perceiver, approach debating different than the extroverted, intuitive thinker judging individual. So if I use a Myers-Briggs classification, these persons approach debating differently. All right, what does that mean for the listener who just get confused with the alphabetical arrangement of letters a while ago? It means this. If you have a girlfriend that is a introverted, sensing, perceiving, judging type, and you are an extroverted, intuitive thinking type, she don't like debating. The moment you start to say something to counter anything, she's going to draw into a shell.
Yes.
But guess what? Debating causes you to know that, So when you start to say something, you have to bring your voice tone. You have to bring across in an emotional way to her so she knows what you're saying. That you're not arguing with her. You're just saying, baby, this is how it should go. What do you think? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's a powerful thing and it's a beautiful crescendo. That is a climax.
Jovaney and Zanieki, anything you want to add to that? Is there any other, technique or skill that you utilized that you believe? I mean, both of you, agree with the both sides of a story, that it allows you to, in some way, I guess, develop more spirit of tolerance then. So is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation? Further
to what Nevins just said, knowing how to understand different people, it's important that one of the things that the debating demands of the debater, You think yes, but you must be able to assess other persons in your room, in the room. You must be able to understand what type of, personality or what kind of preferred mode of, expression that they use, because that will tell you how they think and how they respond.
Okay.
So you must understand yourself first and understand, why you think the way you think and what is it that you're hoping to bring across. And that's something I've definitely taken from debate. Understanding that it's not just about getting points out there. It's about understanding the discussion that's happening, the argument that's on the table. And then upon selecting a side, the difference with debate is that, you're given a side. And you must argue from that perspective.
Right.
In relationships now, there's a bit more freedom. And with that, you must be flexible. You must be able to understand that though this is your standpoint, what is the other person trying to contribute, or what is that person trying to say?
Right.
Knowing then your point and understanding that person's point, you're better able to bridge a gap.
Yes.
And then finding common ground, because the whole idea about relationships is for them to grow.
That's right.
People must grow, and if you're not growing, then what's the point of a relationship?
That's right.
And if I can't say it, debating is by far one of the most incremental catalyst in my growth since being at NCU in the short space of time. And this is why I don't think I'm a seasoned debater yet. I've only been here since the 2017 August, Miss Daly. But I've learned that, growth, learning to listen and trying to understand perspectives does stimulate growth. Unless you must grow. And it's the same with relationships.
I've realized that debating humbles you. So lots of times we have particular points, and until they're aired, you never know how bad they are or how wrong they are.
Okay.
And so sometimes we revel in our own ignorance. So sometimes I would go to debates and I'd be like, yeah, you hear a motion or a mood or whatever you call it. You hear the topic of discussion that you're supposed to debate. And you say, yeah, man, of course, this must be the answer. Right? And you're very dogmatic and adamant in it until someone comes up and says something. You're like, wow, I didn't even think about that. That makes more sense. How does that form into relationships? Yeah. Because sometimes, and we all have the I want to win complex, I am right kind of complex. And this is how listening comes in, which we were talking a lot about listening. Listening requires you to, when you listen now, you're able to hear the other point and you're like, oh, I wasn't right in this particular situation. This was something I never considered in the first place. And the humbling thing is to accept, that you have lost. And that's something like in debates, it's like you're not going there only just to win. You're also going there to learn from others,
That's right.
that experience. And probably most arguments will not reach the stages in relationships if people, instead of going there to win, go there to learn and to understand from the person instead of trying to score points.
Interesting perspective. We've heard a lot, and as we're wrapping up, Zanieki and Jovaney, for them, the whole idea of being able to listen to both sides of a story, which in my mind is really about developing a spirit of tolerance. Nevins reminded us about the whole idea that we need to listen, and not just listen, but listen critically. And the whole idea of being open to the different personality types. And then when you're open to different personality types, it then to some extent determines then how you will treat a particular argument or express an issue. Gentlemen, anything else that you'd like to share before we conclude this podcast?
All right. So just 2 points to add as it relates to that now. The first one being, unless you are locked away in a box or some room, a one-dimensional box very, very, very far away, for the most part, you don't need to engage in any debating. For the most part, you're still in a. But I'm just going to give some persons listening the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to. The moment you step out of that box and engage someone else with a different position or opinion from yours, you are going to need to be able to use debating skills and tactic to come to a consensus on things that are said. You're moving from a point of divergence in view to some convergence.
Okay.
So it's very critical, and it's not all relationships that are dealing with intimacy. You have relationships that are business relationships.
That's right. That's right.
And so in even those instances, being able to understand a position, knowing how to navigate your position to come to that common point is good. But here's the second one real quickly. The second one has to do with almost the economics of things. In this world of limited resources, money, time, and that sort of stuff, when it comes on to decision making, you will need to use debating skills, keeping in mind that debating is reasoned arguments that you're putting forward. So guess what? The mixer man says that, boy, honey, I want a new turntable or I want a new keyboard to mix the music. We check the bank account. Bank account only have $50,000. The instrument costs $100,000. And the wife say, well, we need some new curtains and we need some new things in the house, etc. How do we spend the money? How do you now decide the best way to spend money? Right there and then. You are engaging in debating. And remember, listeners, this is not quarrel. It's reasoned conversation.
That's right.
The cost-benefit analysis of things so that when we spend and we spend together, everybody benefit.
Yes.
And that's what relationship should really be about. Everybody should be happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes, my 2 points on the matter before we close off. You know, while I was sitting here, I was really thinking about what debate has done for me and, you know, relationships. Now, as I keep saying this, but it's because it's true. I don't have much experience with debating, nor do I have much experience with relationships. But I observe. I'm an observant thinker, and I like to look at people and look at other persons and what they do and look at the results that they have. And I noticed that, you know, with debating, it causes you to think, you know, what is this? Well, for me, I like when I look at emotion and then I look at the people in the room, I like to weigh, what is this emotion about? What are we trying to achieve? We must assume that it's not just about spewing, you know, different points or whatever. We must assume that there's something that is to be understood by the emotion. There's something that is supposed to, you know, cause us to think. We must assume that something can be had from it. We can benefit from this discourse. It's the same thing with a relationship. You don't go into a relationship, and it's becoming a thing. You know, people jump into relationships because, you know, we're social beings and relationships is a thing, so you do it. No. You must assume that there is something to be learned and there's something to be benefited from this relationship. Much like debating. You know that there are going to be times when, you know, as Jovaney said, there are going to be points that, you know, that are better than yours. There are going to be instances where you lose, and you must accept that that's a part of the debating, just the way it is. And it's the same with your relationships. You must know that there are going to be times when you lose. There are going to be times when you defer.
That's right.
It's just a reality. And further to that, the beauty of debating, and this is something that I think I prize the most. Yes, being a better thinker, you know, being able to psychoanalyze different people and, you know, changing the way I think and, you know, helping other people to consider their perspectives is the beauty of teamwork in it all.
Okay.
Debating has made me a much better team player.
Okay.
You must appreciate that, you know, you're not just in it for yourself. It's not a one-man show.
That's right.
You must learn about the person who you're debating with, your teammate, because you're doing it together.
That's right.
And whatever you do, if you lose together. If you win together.
Yeah.
With your relationship, you must understand that it is a team.
Yeah.
And anything you do, even though you're playing different roles, much like with debating, they complement each other.
That's right.
I you know, one of our teammates, she's not here now, but she said it, Ayana. Shout out to Ayana Suku. She said something once to know had an impact. That I don't believe that I pursue a relationship because, you know, I'm hoping for someone who will complete me. I'm looking for someone who will complement
me. Yeah.
We must understand that we are individuals first. And we all have a part to play. And then with a complement partner, we know that whatever is to be achieved or to be accomplished, we do that as a team.
Yeah.
Playing the different roles, achieving what is to be achieved.
Yeah.
And I think that's something anyone can learn from, and that's something that is to be aspired to.
Good.
And that is my dream, to learn balance. And debating is helping me to do that. And I'm sure that when the right person comes along, you know, I'll be a fit candidate by that time.
Thank you so much. Zanieki, Jovaney, your final thought.
I just want to add one point, which is that we are rational animals. the thing that differentiates us between other animals is that rationality, which is that ability to think and to reason. And if we try to avoid the rational part, which is for us to engage in discussions and reasonings, then in and of itself, we're seeing that we're foregoing what determines us and makes us humans.
Okay.
And so in every single aspect of our relationship or interaction, we must engage in these particular debates. And I hope people understand from what we're seeing is that when we talk about debates, we're not talking about a bunch of people shouting up to each other.
That's right.
We're talking about rational, intellectual discussions where people sit down and they identify a problem or a problem that exists, that we come to a solution to this particular problem. And I believe if more people engage in this particular thing, Jamaica could be a better place.
That's right.
That more people would be guided by logical factors instead of just doing things simply because, I mean, I don't even want to touch politics, but that's a good place, in the relationships with others that we could improve.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I know it is a topic that we could talk about for quite some time, but I trust that our listeners would have gotten a technique or two that they can incorporate in their relationships. This has been the Making It Last podcast. Your host, Noreen Daly. It continues to be a pleasure. Until next time.
You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers,